Hi everyone. Today I'll be speaking to my very good friend Krishna. So I met Krishna at MIT when I came here for graduate studies, and he was one of my first few friends. And then he did a master's, and is now working in the Bay Area. But we are still been very much in touch. So basically, the idea is again, if you haven't checked out other videos, the idea is to informally speak with people whose profile might be interesting to you, and whose journey like you might be inspired by hearing about. And Yeah, I mean there will be no formal. We'll just basically talk as if you're talking normally. So probably I'll hand it over to Krishna, who can probably tell about where is he from in India, and where he did his undergrad from, and from what year to what year, and then his graduate studies and so on. Yeah, to you, Krishna.
Hello everyone, my name is Krishna. I am originally from Chennai. I was born and brought up there. Uh, I wrote IIT JEE in 2007, and for whatever reason, I got admitted into IIT Madras. So I studied civil engineering there for 5 years. I was in the dual degree program, and towards the end of my undergrad, I was really interested in transportation engineering, which is what I pursued afterwards. So I did a master's in transportation engineering from MIT. Since then, I've worked at a financial services startup as a modeling analyst, and right now I'm working at Lyft as a data scientist, where I get to work on algorithms that optimize a lot of decisions that go in the background of a ride-sharing app like Lyft. So that's a very brief description
Yeah,
of my life.
yeah, I think that's good enough. So just so that everyone knows, Lyft is I'm not sure if Lyft is still in India, or is it? It's not, right?
No, Lyft is partnering with Ola Cabs in India.
Okay, so yeah, so Ola cabs probably people have heard. Yeah, so
Yeah.
so you can imagine Krishna's journey from like civil engineering to almost computer science or software engineering. So you can do that, like if you come, I think if you have a good background, and if you're from IIT, I think it is quite possible that you can switch fields later on. I guess, Krishna, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, so I work as a data scientist, which is which it's actually part of the engineering organization here. But in general, a lot of even software engineers at my company did not really study computer science in their undergrad. A lot of them have physics majors, math majors, uh, because coding is just a skill, and if you're good enough, you can just pick it up at any point in your life. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Great.
me personally, I wasn't very interested in designing buildings and working on construction related stuff. So at some point, I realized I had to do other things, and I started learning programming during my second and third year. And yeah, since then, a lot of stuff I've done has been mostly programming, be it algorithms or building systems for both academic projects and for work. So it's, yeah, all you need. Okay, I think you should edit this part out.
No, no, that's fine. I think we'll keep
Yeah,
it. So yeah, I mean,
no, you should. Anyway.
yeah. So let's probably talk more about the IIT life in general. I think it's a good way to let people know what like. Did you enjoy your time there? Were you just involved in academics, or did you participate in maybe sports or anything else?
Yeah. So, like I said, I wasn't a big fan of civil engineering when I started out. So, in my first semester, I studied really, really hard, trying to get a branch change into computer science, and then that did not happen.
Okay.
So, uh, after that, I did drop in intensity for a couple of semesters, maybe, and I actually enjoyed quite a bit. I watched a lot of TV, a lot of movies, played a lot of video games,
Yeah.
uh, just did everything but work. I did follow classes as well. I wasn't the most sincere student, but I would still listen in class, and like
Mhm.
whichever courses were interesting, I did well. So yeah, I had my share of fun. And then towards like the end of third year, I realized I had to get serious about life after IIT. So I began taking courses seriously. Tried to figure out, fine, I'm in civil engineering, but let me try to make the best use of whatever resources I have here.
Mhm.
So the transportation division in IIT Madras, like, for me was like the best
Mhm.
possible place to spend my time at, and I did a lot of really cool projects over there. Some of the projects that we built are live, and like the people of Chennai are using it. So yeah,
Okay.
so I had a bit of both, like a lot of work and a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, so I mean, speaking of fun, probably we can then now move from here to IIT JEE because I just heard you speaking about video games and movies. So let's talk about your JEE time and whether you used to do these things during your JEE time also. So one of the things that a lot of aspirants generally worry about is time management. So probably were you so I mean, I have already spoken this many times that I was addicted to internet for some period of time before which I completely stopped using computer unless I really had to. So did you used to use internet or watch a lot of TV, or how did you manage your time? And maybe you can also share if you were going to a coaching or something that you were how you were breaking time between school and different responsibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, so for most of my 2 years, I had to do very little time management because it was managed for me by others. Uh, for example, like I had school from the morning till like 3:30 p.m. and then
Mm-hmm.
I used to come home, immediately rush for my coaching classes. So that was like a 1 hour journey to the other end of the city. So I would go
Okay.
there by 5. Classes started at 5:15, 5:30, took 3.5 hours. They get over by 9, and then I would come back home by 10, 10:30. So the day was pretty much full,
So how
especially
many days were these coaching classes for you?
so
Or
in class 11, it was 3 days a week, and in class 12, this happened 6 days a week.
oh, okay.
So
So
basically, the time you spend in classes doubled in the second year.
okay.
And in fact, the
Sure.
weekends were probably the most like jam-packed. For example, I remember my Sundays, they would begin at 5:30 a.m. And because I had like a 1 hour travel time, so I would wake
Mm-hmm.
up at 5, reach the class by 6, 6:30, 3 hours of class, come home, have breakfast, immediately go back, again travel another hour for a class at noon, and then I would
Okay.
have two back-to-back classes separated by an hour of break. So by the time I came back, it would already be like 8 or 9 p.m. on Sunday as well. So
So did
this
you
was the
get
case for
sorry,
yeah.
sorry. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So yeah, this was the case for pretty much all of the 2 years. In class 11, I had a few weekdays off where I didn't have to go for coaching classes,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to spend my time just reading books, preparing for JEE. I was in CBSE, so that meant I could spend very little time studying for school.
Mm-hmm.
The rules might have changed now, but back then there was just a minimum percentage that you had to get in CBSE,
Mm-hmm.
and then all that counted was your JEE marks. So I would mostly spend time reading books. Yeah, and
Yeah, I mean, my question was like, sorry. Yeah, you can go
so
ahead probably.
sorry, I keep interrupting you, but yeah,
Mm.
in terms of time management, like uh, the one time when I really had to manage my time was the last 3 or 4 months when there was very
Mm-hmm.
little school,
Mm-hmm.
and I did a terrible job of it. So I was a little like burnt out by the end of like year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing okay in classes, but I wasn't someone that was like a surety. Like, there are always these people whom like the professors say he or she is gonna get into the top 50, top 100. I was nowhere close to that list.
Mm-hmm.
So while I had a lot of like dreams of getting into IIT, I wasn't very confident.
Mm-hmm.
So I also took my chance to like have fun, and by fun I mean mostly video games. So I
Okay.
remember like playing Need for Speed like 8 hours straight on like days when
Okay.
nobody would be at home.
Okay.
But then at some point close to JE, I realized that it was serious stuff and I had to stop it. So I voluntarily removed my cable. I still had
Mm-hmm.
internet, but yeah. So I became pretty serious towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like that's the best. I mean, if you can self-realize, or maybe someone can realize after hearing you. But I think like time management is one of those keys. So I never faced such a problem because probably I didn't have so many lectures. I had very minimal lectures actually. But like what I was wanted to ask you, other than that, not getting distracted in video games and TVs, is that how important for you was the self-study? Like, did you feel that for me personally, it was very important for the fact that, I mean, whatever I was doing, I needed to spend time, come back home and revise those concepts, and solve problems on my own, rather than just seeing someone else solve the problem. It was very important for me to do that thing myself. So did you also feel that, that you
No, it was
spent?
actually quite different for me.
Okay.
I really enjoyed attending lectures, and like especially
Okay.
if it's a good teacher, and I
Mhm.
had a few very good ones for my coaching classes.
Mhm.
I most of my learning happened just by listening to someone talk to me about it.
Okay.
Uh, I was very bad at picking up a book and trying to like read and understand new concepts from it. So if
Mhm.
someone had already taught me something, say mechanics, then I could
Mhm.
go pick a book, read a little more about it, make my understanding a little more deeper. But I was very bad at like picking up a book and reading totally new
Uh,
stuff from it.
no, no, yeah, I don't mean to say that. I mean to say that, like, maybe something has been covered for you in school or coaching or wherever,
Yeah.
and then after that, basically revising the lecture, and solving the problems. Was that something that you used to do regularly, or was that something somehow built in the part of your curriculum, somehow?
It was part of my curriculum. We had homework assignments as part
Okay,
of our coaching
so
classes. I tried to take them as seriously as I could,
okay, so you
and
used to. Okay,
that sort of kept me in check in terms of like revising stuff. We had periodic tests once a
okay,
month or so.
okay.
So yeah, I mean the tests weren't very serious. They weren't like school exams, but you still wanted to do well. Like
Yeah,
so, I
yeah.
had a nice peer group of like around 10, 15 people from my school in the same class. So there was some sort of like friendly competition among ourselves. That sort
Hmm.
of kept you in check.
Kept you motivated. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So, I mean, basically for you, it was that you had a very good pre-designed curriculum, and that you felt that, it was built in so that you always used to revise the concepts because of exams or homework assignments. Okay, that's good. So, I mean, if somebody, just from follow up, if somebody doesn't have all these things, I think it
Hmm.
makes sense for you to draw sort of a, rough plan, make it a realistic plan, not an unrealistic plan,
Yep.
but sort of keep it in check, uh, so that you are basically revising these topics regularly, and forcing yourself by doing homework assignments, or by taking mock tests at home. Okay, one of the next things that I wanted to ask was basically the division between different subjects. Something that many people, at least the students I have taught, I've seen that they generally struggle this quite a lot. That many students, for instance, if they don't like maths, they will just not read maths. So, what was your experience? What did you have questions to?
uh, yeah, this may not have been the answer that you were expecting from me, but I was one of the students who, if some they
No,
didn't like
that's
something,
fine.
they never studied something.
I never studied chemistry.
That is the same with me. Like I, for some reason, did not enjoy reading or inorganic chemistry, and
Of
for a
course,
lot of time, organic chemistry as well, just because you had to remember a lot of
memorize.
things.
Yeah, yeah, of
I
course.
was terrible at that. So, but then I really enjoyed physics for a number of reasons because one, I had a really good professor, and two, I was also interested in the concepts that I was learning, and I had a few good books. Resnick and Halliday was one very good book that I
Mm-hmm,
liked.
mm-hmm,
Um, so yeah, I would spend my time reading random stuff from Resnick and Halliday, even if I knew that that was probably not going to help me in clearing JE.
mm-hmm.
I just read that for the fun of it, and
Oh, yeah, of course. Okay,
yeah,
great.
so that's how I spent my time. But I did realize that like at some point I had to clear the basic like cutoff for each subject.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had to like suck it up and study a little bit of chemistry as well. But yeah, till the end, I just like for some reason I did like organic chemistry and I never spent a lot of time studying it. Uh,
Yeah.
However, in JE though, what helped me was because I liked physics so much. I actually did pretty well in physics that year. Physics was one of the tougher exams in 2007, and I got way above a lot of people in that, and that sort of helped me balance slightly lower
Mhm.
scores in math and chemistry.
Okay. But do you suggest, I mean, I personally felt that, I mean, I was the same place that, I mean, I used to like physical chemistry quite a lot. In fact, I still continue to do so. But like, I did never liked organic chemistry or inorganic chemistry, but I did feel that, if you do like even minimum time sometimes in like easy topics which are sometimes boring,
Yeah,
actually you can get away with like pretty decent scores just
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
So I remember for inorganic chemistry, I just studied the CBSE book, which is
Yeah,
probably a terrible
yeah.
strategy, but it just worked out for me. Uh, yeah, so it depends on you. Like there were some who were like equally good at all three, or they would just
Mm.
balance it out, and they did similarly in all three subjects. I personally like try to focus on my strengths more than like cover up for my
Mhm.
weaknesses because I had it in my head that I was never going to study chemistry again, which is
Mhm.
not entirely true because you do study that in IIT.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, it's up to you. You will definitely get some sort of feedback by either taking tests in your class or giving like you
Mhm.
can judge yourself
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
how comfortable you are with a certain subject. It's important
Mhm.
to keep in mind the subject cutoffs. So
Mhm.
I would
Yeah, I
try
think
to balance it out,
probably
but not focus too much on it.
yeah, I think probably subject cutoffs are like redundant now, but like
Yeah.
even then, like I think sort of keeping some sort of balance. Of course, there cannot be exact amount of time you can spend, but definitely some sort of balance would help, I
And
guess, in general.
yeah, one thing you should also remember is that there are a lot of topics covered in each subject. So it is okay to actually skip one or two topics in a
Hmm.
subject. For example, I really did not like inorganic chemistry, so I like remember totally no, ignoring a couple of like
Very difficult problem
big
to
chunks of
memorize.
chapters
Yeah.
because I knew that I could spend the next 3 weeks studying it. I would still not be as good as others in that.
Right, right,
Whereas
right,
if I
right.
skipped it, I would probably lose out on a couple of questions. But if I spent the same 3 weeks focusing on math and physics, I could make up for these two questions in those subjects because you're not trying to get 100% in all three subjects, right? You're just trying to get as
Mhm.
much as possible by clearing the cutoff. So you
True,
can,
true.
I wouldn't recommend making such like yes or no decisions right at the beginning, but towards the end,
Mhm.
you should feel free to make such decisions.
Great. Also, so let's like from there, basically, did you have, I mean, I'm just basically making this up. Did you have revision strategies or like something that you used to write notes? Like if you used to like, let's say you said you used to enjoy lectures, so did you used to keep notes
Yeah, I
or when you?
love my notes, and I still have them like almost 10 years after I gave JE. So I
Okay.
really liked my notes, and because I would basically take down whatever I thought was interesting and important when the professor was talking,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt that helped me a lot more than any book because for
Right,
me
right,
personally, I always remember everything uh, the first time I see it or hear it.
right.
So that just sticks to my mind, and looking at my notes just takes me back to that moment. So.
Okay, great. So, and did you used to also summarize them, or did you used to just use them in the form you? I mean, which is
Um,
both are fine. I'm just wondering what
I
your
just, yeah, I didn't really spend much time summarizing it.
summarizing them. Okay,
The
so
only
you.
time I did summarize them was for open book tests, but yeah, they weren't very useful. Like I just, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
used
mean,
to look at my notes very often, so I didn't have to summarize them.
summarize them for you because you probably remembered the
Yeah,
almost the entire thing of the
yeah,
notes. Okay, so you used to like notes a lot.
yeah.
Great. Yeah, and other than that, like if in let's not if other than studies, did you find any particular tip for exams? Maybe very important. For instance, if you are giving a 3 hour exam back to back to 3 hour exams, uh, maybe.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think, I mean, I don't think 3 hours plus 3 hours, 6 hours of back-to-back exams is a lot of time. I think it should be easily manageable because once you get in the zone of giving an exam, you it's very difficult to lose concentration.
Mhm.
And the only strategy was I was always uh, focusing on not spending too much time on one question because
Okay.
you should have like really like strong cutoffs on time in terms of
Mhm.
you should decide that you wouldn't spend more than X minutes on a certain question, however easy you think it might be or however close to the answer you are.
Mhm.
So the strategy that I used was I would just scan the entire by scanning I mean like go through all the questions and in the first pass like answer all the questions that I knew I could get with like very
Yeah,
high
yeah,
certainty. And then
yeah,
I would just circle out the ones that were, I would actually categorize them. I would circle out the ones that I knew I had no scope of getting. And then
yeah.
there was like some that I knew that if I spent enough time, I could crack it. So yeah, I
Yeah.
basically use the strategy. So I would just go first pass, answer all the sure ones, and then second pass, try to answer as many of the like in between ones.
Okay. Okay, great. And what about, I mean, I know you have spoken about video games, but like on a daily life, did you used to sleep well or like somehow keep a good tab of, I mean,
Not
like you
really.
some way of de-stressing, or were you always stressed, or like how was
I was super stressed all the time because, like I said,
really?
I wasn't very confident that I would clear the JE.
Okay.
So I
So
was always stressed about like trying to spend more time on getting better.
so looking back, like I mean, that's fine. That's what you've experienced at that time. Looking back, do you have any suggestion for people who probably are feeling stressed? I mean, I think we all felt stressed at that time, and I think it is okay to feel some level of stress also.
Yeah,
But maybe some particular thought or some sort of feeling that now, maybe if you look back, you probably realize that even if you didn't take stress, probably things would have been okay or something
yep,
on that lines. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I know I have a lot of friends who didn't take much stress or as much stress as I did. Some of them also cleared the JE and they had the best of both. They had fun during high school and then they got into IIT. But then my thought process was I wanted to get into IIT at any cost, and this is like 10 years
Mm,
ago.
mm,
And now, like now that it's been 10 years, and I look at all my friends, some of whom made it to IIT and some of whom did not.
yeah.
It's really not that big of a deal. Like if you're smart enough and if you're like talented enough, one exam doesn't like decide your life. Like
Right.
people who
Right.
didn't get into IIT and who just went into an NIT or who didn't even get into NIT but went into some private engineering college, they were smart. So at some point they just had to work hard and they
Mhm.
went into really good colleges after undergrad. They went to IIMs or they started pursuing masters in really top universities. And even then, like the name of the university doesn't matter as much as what you do. So a lot of people from like unheard of colleges have like done so many great things that a lot of my IIT friends didn't even do. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the thing is like I know everyone makes it a big deal, but it is a big deal to get into IIT, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. So keep that in mind and like also try to relax.
Yeah. I mean, that sort of like there's just that feeling that it's okay. Like I mean, you should work hard and everything, but then it's not the end of the world. Sort of
Exactly.
lifts this
Yeah.
burden off your shoulder
Because yeah,
because
if you're smart enough, you're bound to come up at some point. So you don't
yeah.
have to let a 3 hour exam decide your fate.
Yeah, and like even after going into IIT, things don't become magic. People still have to work hard. So you have to work hard
Yeah.
anyway, wherever you go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
you think?
Exactly. And I
So,
know a lot of friends, in fact, like who came to IIT and then they just let go completely. And
yeah, that doesn't
if you
never.
look at it like 10 years later, a lot of my other friends are doing much better in their careers, even though they didn't get into IIT. So
Yeah,
it's not
so,
about just this 2 years of like high intensity work and then you
yeah.
can't think that you would chill for the rest of your life. That's not how it works, unfortunately.
Yeah, great. So I think probably this is sort of the overall things I had. Anything else that you probably want to share in general? Any tips or anything that you comes to your mind now that you have been remembering your preparation?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Um,
you should really enjoy these 2 years of studying because I mean, I've studied for 5 years at IIT and 2 years at MIT, both of which are supposed to be very competitive places where really smart people go to study. But really, if I look back or in during like all of my life, the one period when I had the most learning was during IIT JEE because just the amount of new things that you learn in those 2 years is just amazing. And you'll never have a chance to do that for the rest of your life because there's no need to study so much in such a short period of time.
right, right.
So take this as like a nice opportunity to learn more things about our world, be curious and focus on things that you enjoy studying. And yeah, IIT is just one exam, but study for the joy of studying and not just to clear an exam because that's what will help you in the long run. So
Yeah, I mean that's a very good point because if I look back, I mean probably just because my nature of my research is right now like that, but I still use a lot of things I've learned in JE, even very basic concepts. Like sometimes you just look back and remember even high school stuff, and then okay, this was how it used to be, and I have forgotten so many things. But like and like I think like you get a very good holistic understanding of like things around you through different topics in physics, chemistry, and maths. And some of them actually you might use or you might not use at all. But in general, JE does teach you sort of JE preparation teaches you this sort of way of thinking logically about problems, and which of
yeah,
course you built upon, we build on like in later education. But I'm in general saying I think it's a good period of time to study, work hard because I mean even I mean, this it will add up. Whether you clear JE or not doesn't matter, but like it will
exactly.
really help you later on.
Yeah. So one example I can give is a lot of people, a lot of my friends who were really good while studying for JE, unfortunately couldn't clear the exam. So they started studying it in NIT, but that sort of like that preparation for 2 years basically set them up for life in the sense that after NIT, when they attempted to either like pursue higher studies or try an MBA at say IIMs, preparing for those exams was way easier for those people compared to those who did not go through IIT JEE. In fact, like if you look
Hmm.
at everyone in the world, right, the people who do a good job of studying for JEE forget about clearing it. If you do a good job of studying JEE, you're probably one of the smartest 17-year-olds at the end of 2 years of preparation because no other country like forces or encourages students to study this much at such a young age. Even at
Hmm.
places like MIT, a lot. I'm talking about undergraduate education at MIT. So a lot of things that we study for JEE is
Yeah.
taught in the
Yeah.
first year of undergrad at MIT. So
Yep.
we learn a lot of really cool, tough concepts, and it's also scientifically proven that you learn best when you're young. So it's a great opportunity because you have both incentive and the time and the resources to
Yes.
study some of the best things that you'll ever study. Again, edit this part out, please.
But I think I will keep it the original one. Okay. Great. Yeah, I mean that was probably the most of the things that I wanted to speak with you. So yeah, I mean, in case you have anything you want to share more, probably you can put it on a blog or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, great. So thanks everyone for watching, and we hope that you benefited with this sort of informal discussion. And yeah, best of luck for JEE preparation. Okay.
Right.
Bye bye.
Bye. All the best, everyone.